In this video, I will walk you through the process of setting up your environment, installing the necessary libraries, and getting an Anthropic API key. Let's get started. I'm installing the necessary libraries. The Python Software Development Kit, or SDK for Claude, is contained in the Anthropic package. Install it by running pip install -q Anthropic. You can execute the pip command either in the terminal or in Jupyter Notebook or Colab. If you use Jupyter Notebook locally, I recommend creating and activating a virtual environment for your Claude projects. Follow the instructions I've provided at the beginning of the course when we set up the environment. This library, like many other generative AI libraries, is under heavy development. To upgrade it, run pip install -upgrade -q Anthropic. And to see the installed version, run pip show Anthropic. The API is made available via the Anthropic Web Console and client libraries for Python and TypeScript. We are done installing the necessary Python library. Let's go ahead and generate an API key. To start using Claude via API, you'll need to set up a console account and obtain an API key. An API key will allow you to integrate Claude directly into your applications. Let's sign up for a console account. Go to console.anthropic.com and create a new account using your email address or your Google account. This process is straightforward, so I won't go into much detail. Once your account is created and verified, log into the Anthropic console. This is your central hub for interacting with Claude. Note that using the Claude API is not free, but you can get $5 in free credits to get started. All you need is a valid phone number for SMS confirmation. In the console, click Claim, enter your phone number, and confirm it via SMS. Once confirmed, you will see your free credits under Plans and Billing here. Pay special attention to the Workbench area in the Anthropic console. The Workbench is where you can experiment with prompts, interact with Claude, and export code snippets directly from your browser. It's an excellent place to test and refine your prompts before integrating them into your application. It's similar to OpenAI's Playground and Google's AI Studio. To use Claude, we'll need an API key. Click on Get API Keys or navigate to the API Key section within your account settings. Click the Create Key button on the top right and give your key a descriptive name. Copy the generated API key and store it in a secure location. Note that you won't be able to view the key again once you leave this page, so make sure to save it. Using a text editor, create a text file in the current directory and save the key to the file like this: Anthropic API key equals and the key in double quotes. We'll use python.env for authentication, so rename the text file as .env. File save as .env. Here, in the .env file, you can add many other API keys for other services such as OpenAI, Hugging Face Hub, or Google's Gemini, or Pinecone. One more thing. On Linux and macOS, file names that start with a dot are hidden by default. Go to your File Explorer settings and select to see them as well. In summary, in your projects directory, there should be a file called .env with the content Anthropic API key equals and your API key. With your account set up and API key in hand, we are ready to start coding with Claude. We've already set up our environment and generated an API key. With those ready, we'll start handling the authentication to Anthropic. Remember, your API key is saved in a variable called Anthropic API key in a file named .env in your current directory. I'm importing OS and two functions from .env, load.env and find.env. From .env, import load.env and find.env. I'm calling load.env with two arguments, find.env, which returns the path to .env, and override equals true, which is necessary if we change the key. I'm running the code. The key was loaded into an environment variable called Anthropic API key. If you want to see it, you can do os.environ.get and the name of the variable, Anthropic API key. Let's go ahead and make the API request to Claude. I am importing the Anthropic class from the Anthropic library. I'm creating an Anthropic client using the class constructor. By default, it looks for your API key in the Anthropic API key environment variable. If you haven't set that up, you would pass your key like this, API underline key equals and your API key. Next, I'll make the API call using client.messages.create. This method uses a specific model and returns a message containing the model's text response. Response equals. I'm defining a variable for the model name so we can easily change it later if needed. Model name equals. You can find a list of all models at this address. I'll use Claude 3 Haiku because it's fast, cost-effective, and understands both text and images. The method arguments are model equals model name, max tokens equals 1024. This is mandatory and controls how much text the model can generate. Tokens are like word pieces, roughly 4 characters equal 1 token. The next argument is temperature. Temperature is a parameter that controls the degree of randomness or creativity in the responses generated by Claude. It ranges from 0 to 1 with a default value of 1. I'll use 0.9. Using a low temperature closer to 0 results in more deterministic, predictable, and less surprising text completions, and using a high temperature closer to 1 introduces more randomness and creativity in the responses. The next argument is messages. Messages is where we build the conversation. It's a list of dictionaries. Each dictionary has a role, user or assistant, and the actual content of the message. In this example, I'll use one dictionary. Role, colon, user. And the content, colon, and the prompt. The content contains the actual text of the message. Write a poem about the moon. The LLM's text response will be found in response.content of 0.text. I am running the code. It responded with a creative poem about the moon. That's awesome. By the way, if you don't want to see \n, but new lines, print the response. For now, that's a wrap. In this video, you learned how to make API calls to Anthropic's Claude. Let's go ahead and dive into multimodal AI. Get this, the latest versions of Claude have exciting new capabilities. They can understand and analyze images. This opens up a whole world of possibilities where your interactions with AI can combine text and visuals. For example, you could ask Claude to describe what's happening in a photo or use an image to spark a creative story. You don't need any special model versions to start experimenting with images and Claude. This works with the standard Claude 3 models you are already familiar with. To experience Claude's vision capabilities, you can interact with images directly within the chat interface on Claude.ai through the console workbench or by making an API request with Python. Just a heads up, multimodal LLMs, where models like Claude handle both text and images, are still super new in the AI world, so expect even more awesome features as Claude keeps getting smarter. You can use local image files or fetch online images using HTTP. Let's start with an example using a local image. In the current directory, there's a subdirectory called images, and there's an image called sun.jpg. File name equals images/sun.jpg. Note that supported image formats are JPEG, PNG, GIF, and WebP. I'm importing the image class from ipython.display to display the image in Jupyter Notebook. By the way, if IPython is not installed, install it by running pip install IPython. And I'm displaying the image of file name, and the width equals 600. I don't want the image to occupy the entire window space. Very well. For optimal performance, consider resizing your images before uploading if they might exceed size or token limits. Currently, your image's long edge should be less than 1568 pixels, or your image tokens should be less than 1600. If the image is larger, it will be scaled down while preserving the aspect ratio, which may increase latency. Keep in mind that these values are subject to changes, so consult Claude's documentation for the latest information. Each image you include in a request to Claude contributes to your token usage. Assuming your image doesn't need resizing, you can estimate the number of tokens used with this simple formula. Tokens equals width times height divided by 750. And to calculate the approximate cost, multiply the estimated number of image tokens by the per token price of the model you are using. Claude expects images encoded using base 64. To provide images to Claude as base 64 encoded content blocks, follow these steps. First, import the base 64 module. Next, open the image file in read and binary mode with open file name and the second argument RB, read and binary, as image file. Inside the with block, read the entire contents of the image file as raw binary data and store it in a variable. Image binary data equals image file.read. I'm calling the read method. Lastly, encode the raw image data using base 64. Base 64 turns the binary data into a text string. Image base 64 string equals base 64 dot b64 encode of image binary data dot decode of UTF-8. The decode UTF-8 part decodes the base 64 bytes object into a string that can be used by Claude. Now to have everything in this cell, I'll paste the code that imports Anthropic and creates the client. I'm defining a list of dictionaries that will be used as an argument by client.messages.create when making the API call. Messages list equals list of dictionaries. This dictionary represents the user's message, role, colon, user, and content, colon, and the list. The first part of the content is the image. Type, colon, image, and source, colon, and another dictionary. Type, colon, base 64. The image is encoded in base 64 and is of type JPEG. Media type, colon, image slash JPEG. And data, image base 64 string. Here is the actual base 64 encoded string of the image. Content is also a list of dictionaries. I'm indenting the code a little bit for a better readability. The second dictionary of the content list is the text prompt. Type text and the text, colon, describe this image. And that's it. I hope I closed all the square brackets and curly braces correctly. I'm making the API call by calling client.messages.create. Response equals client.messages.create. Model equals model name. Max tokens 1024. And the messages equals messages list. I'm displaying the response as usual. Print response.content of 0 dot text. Very well. I'm running the code. It is running. As you can see, I received an accurate description of the image. Let's try another prompt. Text. Is that a sunset or a sunrise? Think carefully before answering. That appears to be a sunset, which is correct. I took that photo myself. Let's try the last prompt. Write a sonnet about this image. Very well. Before wrapping up this video, let's encapsulate the code above into a function. This way, you won't need to copy and paste it repeatedly when working with Claude's vision capabilities. df ask about image. The first parameter, image binary data. The second parameter, image type. And it defaults to image JPEG. Then comes text prompt with the default value, describe this image. Model name, and by default it will use haiku. And finally max tokens with the default value 1024. To save time, I'll just paste the code. It's the code I explained to you a little bit earlier. This code. I just used the function's parameters instead of the actual values. And the function returns the text response of the model. I'm running it. Let's test the function using another image. This image depicts the surface of the planet Mars and is the first color image from Viking Lander 1. It was taken in July 1976, on the day following Viking Lander 1's successful landing on the planet. I'm opening the file with open images and Mars.jpg. I'm opening it in read and binary mode as image file. Image binary data equals image file dot read. And I'm calling the function response equals ask about image of image binary data and text prompt equals describe this image in great detail. I leave all the other arguments to their default values. And I'm printing the response. I'm running it. As you can see, it recognized the planet Mars very well. The vision capabilities of Claude Haiku are promising. Good. In this video, you've gained insights into Claude's versatile vision capabilities. Claude is a remarkable multimodal model that adeptly comprehends both text and images as inputs. Now, let's take a brief break. In the next video, we will delve into how to use an online image from a URL as input for Claude. Stay tuned.